Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of Fueling Tomorrow. Today, I am joined by none other than my partner in crime at Diamondback, Ashley Colquitt. We are your corporate affairs girls, and today we are going to be educating you on corporate partnerships. And Ashley, thank you so much for joining me.
You're so welcome. It's a pleasure. I'm really happy to be able to speak on this and talk through this with our audience.
And we are unintentionally matching, which
Yes,
just
we
shows how
are.
closely we work together that we show up wearing the same color to record a podcast.
I
But
know.
let's first touch on why this episode is so important. One,
Mhm.
for educating our employees that serve on boards and board members throughout the community and nonprofits as a whole.
Right. So when we look at the Permian Basin, Midland-Odessa, we know, and I'm not going to give an exact number,
Yes.
but we know there are hundreds of nonprofits out there. We also know that at some point, we will have employees that are participants on a board or on a committee, know of a family member or friend that is wanting to engage with them in an ask. And when you're coming before a funder, it's really important that you present yourself and put your best foot forward in representing your cause. Um, there are a lot of nonprofits, but resources and funds and all of those things that, corporate America has access to, those are things that nonprofits a lot of times don't have the accessibility to and have to do everything on their own.
Mhm.
So when we talk about vision and sharing that vision, it's really important that you're tight on that when you go before Diamondbacks. So, and I would assume other funders as well.
Yes. And one of the biggest things, and we stress on this in almost every partnership we have, whether it's with a nonprofit, someone in the education space, or just other organizations in the community, and our employees alone, is building relationships.
Absolutely.
And that is truly the first step when you come before an organization, and at least for us,
Yeah.
is work to create that relationship. And let's talk about why that's so important, why relationship over anything else is number one.
So it's about trust, right? And it's about providing the time to truly share that vision and ensure that whoever you're going to understands that. The other part of that, and I love this saying, is it's not about fundraising, it's about friend raising. Um, when you go immediately for the ask or go for the gut, go for the throat, um,
Coming in hot.
coming in hot, that's that can be overwhelming to a funder. And so it really is allowing us the opportunity just to get to know you.
Mhm.
Um, that's powerful. And for you, as a nonprofit, for you to be able to say, hey, look, I just want you to know me. And I really want to get to know you as well. So that's powerful.
And I think too, it's important for everyone to understand what the organization actually does, because with so many nonprofits in Midland and Odessa, what differentiates
Mhm.
you from the others? How are you plugging into the community in a way that we haven't seen before or haven't been asked about before? And that for us, I know we get asked a lot,
Mhm.
and having one, your presentation is concise and to the point, and it hits all the meters that it needs to hit, but also giving us something to look at after you leave. So how can nonprofits prepare for setting up that relationship, or what do you think is the best way to go about that?
So I like to think of it as submitting a proposal. Um, we need to know your mission. We need to know your vision. We need to know impact.
Mhm.
If you've been around, it's great to share data.
We
Um,
love numbers.
we love numbers. And beyond that, yes, we love numbers. We also love how are you impacting the community and targeting what you're wanting to
Mhm.
target, looking through a proposal, looking at your budget, potentially your staff,
Your board members.
board members. And then what's the ask? Why are you asking for, for us, the diamond dollar? Um, and so that's really important to have clarity around that and to be able to share that and be able to share it in a way that truly tells a story.
Mhm.
And if you're able to, your goal is to inspire.
Yes.
Um, I I think when you develop that proposal, pictures say 1,000 words. So if you're able to provide visuals of how you're impacting the community and what your nonprofit is doing, that's powerful as well. So, but the big thing is come prepared. We've had nightmares, and we could go through the stories of nonprofits coming to ask and really demand money.
Mhm.
And that is, let's just be honest, rude.
Yes.
It's
That's
rude.
why creating the relationship first is so important before you bring an ask forward.
Absolutely. And so, and when you do that ask, I think you really need to have someone that knows how to do that. Not every board member may do well at requesting sponsors or requesting, talking to funders. And so you need to have somebody that's able to do that. And then if you don't have that person, go to Nonprofit Management Center, attend their Funders Academy,
Mhm.
listen to this podcast, educate yourself on how to do an ask before you go and, and just do it.
Yeah, and there's a way to do it correctly, and let's touch on that. For us as the corporate affairs girls, and Clint is our boss, we're under the government affairs department, we are the first stop at Diamondback for an ask.
Mhm.
And even if you send it to someone else, it gets sent to us, and then we work through our process of making sure that fits in our buckets, and that's another point of research when you're searching out organizations to or corporations, I should say, to receive funding from, is make sure that you fit in the buckets of where their giving goes. And we can talk about that and we'll touch on it a bit, but I think reaching out to the right people, but not doing it out. If you're at a networking event, that's great, create the relationship. But if it's after work hours and someone's with their family or we're out enjoying ourselves at an event on the weekends, that's not necessarily the place to do so. It might be the place to introduce yourself and say who you are, but that's not the place to make an ask.
I
It's
love that.
creating that relationship and then setting time during the workday to come and meet with us as a team so we can really evaluate and learn what your nonprofit is about.
I love that. We've had people that have done that well, and then people that have not done so well at that. An example of a person or a nonprofit doing it well is when they came and just introduced what their nonprofit was about. Um, we sat down with them and we were like, okay, so what is the ask?
Mhm.
And, what they said was just beautiful. "We don't have an ask. We just wanted you to be aware of who we are and, wanted to introduce ourselves." And they did it during the workday, which I appreciated as well. I know you did. M you know, s Seeing us at the gym or the grocery store
Yeah.
or the gas station and, pushing your ask on us is probably not the best process or protocol, um, to follow or to go through,
Mhm.
um, to do that. So, be mindful of timing. That's really important.
And I think I'll speak for both of us. When people come in and we create that relationship and they leave just saying they wanted to introduce themselves, that leaves us with a wonderful first impression. We walk out with a smile on our face, and now we're already looking forward to see, will we be able to help this nonprofit in the future?
Absolutely.
And when we talk about making the ask, we mentioned having a proposal. And I think it's important for understand the ask does 99% of the time is not approved in that room at that moment. So
Right.
we need to have the tools with us when you leave that we can then present that to the team that approves the asks with the information that's needed.
Right.
So we have to have enough information to share your story and represent you well on why you would fit under Diamondback's pillars of giving. And let's touch on where Diamondback gives. So do you want to hit our 3, 4 buckets that we
Sure.
have?
So, Diamondback is really big on our 4 pillars, and one of those is first responders,
Yes.
education, underprivileged, and then our last bucket is quality of life.
Mhm.
So, when we look at those pillars or those buckets and look at your vision, we want to see how tightly aligned is that with what we have a passion about, what Diamondback has a passion about, is passionate about. Um, so, uh, I think those are broad
Mhm.
in some ways, and then in other ways, it helps us to look at it and narrow the scope of, which proposals do we look at, which ask do we look at, and how do we move forward?
And are they a true benefit to the communities where we live, work, and play?
Yeah,
That's what we're looking for.
absolutely.
And now let's touch on we have with asks, we have asks that we get all the time, but then we also have capital campaigns, which are a completely different set of
Mm,
parameters for us at Diamondback. And anything that is 100,000 and above is considered a capital campaign for us. And it's probably not the same for every corporation across Midland-Odessa, but we're going to touch on how we work through that. And that is it's the same parameters of giving, but talk about how it differs from a normal ask for a sponsorship or partnering for an event to what a capital campaign entails.
right. So when we look at a capital campaign, we're really looking at how does it fit in our pillars. We need you to do your homework.
Mhm.
If, Erin or I am having to sit down and develop your proposal for you to then submit to the executive leadership team, that's more work on us. And that's really not fair. I think
Yes.
we're happy to educate, we're happy to provide those pointers, but to do that work, that really needs to be done by the nonprofit. The other part of that is, when we look at anything over 120,000, we go into our DOA policies.
Mhm.
And so with that, it has to go before executive leadership. We have to have so many of that team stating that it's a yes. We have to have legal approve that. They're looking at the board to see if anyone from executive team are members of that board. So there's some tighter considerations that we need to review. And so with that, it can take some time.
Yes.
It's not a just fast process where we're able to push through in that week, give you a decision and cut the check. This is a process.
This is months.
Yeah, it really is. And it's slow for me. I'll be honest with you, and I think Erin can speak to this
Yeah.
too. When we believe in your cause, we're fighting for
Yeah,
you.
we will be your biggest cheerleaders.
Yes, which is another reason why it's so important that you go through corporate affairs and follow that process, because we can be your biggest cheerleaders and
Mhm.
advocates in a room where we will essentially have to go and present your work. So, it's good to follow the process, but it does take time, and sometimes that kills me. But
Yes.
we just have to be patient,
Mhm.
and knowing that, you know, there is, there are parameters and there are processes in place that we just have to honor and breathe.
Yes. And
Yes,
we really put our trust in the executive team, and there are really only a handful of capital campaigns that get presented and approved each year. So it's not a large
absolutely.
number. And I think if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I don't necessarily have an event ask or a sponsorship ask that I have, but if you know you have a capital campaign that you're looking to have funding for, build that relationship the year before and then come to us with your ask so that you're one of the first ones on the docket to be presented to the executive team. Because the sooner that we have the information and that presentation or proposal ready to go, it's still going to take months. And we're working on getting that synced down. But the earlier, the better.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Let's start early in the year. Let's ask all the questions. Let's make sure that we're prepared and that we've had enough time to really understand the, your vision or the nonprofit's vision, um, and what they're wanting to do to invest in the community. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
And moving back to events,
Okay, let's do
we're going to
it.
talk about there's so many events
Mm,
that we get asked to sponsor, that we attend. There are times of the week, dates, calendar, months, whatever, that fit better with getting attendance. And I think it's important to touch on those as nonprofits think of when should I schedule my event or what will set me up to have the best turnout and the best success for that event. And we know for a fact a lunchtime event,
mhm,
those are easier for us to fill. If it's
mhm.
during the week, if it's during the workday, after hours, those are always harder. You're already setting up to a little bit more difficulty of us filling that table because now people have to ask for babysitters. But what days of the week do you think fit best for events for us and probably for other corporations
Mhm.
as a whole?
So you hit on it. Lunch, that 11:30 to 1, Monday through Thursday
Mhm.
is like a sweet spot. I would say, and I would recommend to a nonprofit, stay away from those Fridays. One, you get employees that are headed off maybe on vacation, PTO, but also a lot of companies work half days. And so you need to be mindful of that, okay, if we set this up on a Friday, there's going to be a lot of people that would attend had it been scheduled a Monday through a Thursday.
Yes.
If you're doing an evening event, let's think later in the week. In my opinion,
Yeah,
Erin, what do you think?
I agree.
But you got to up your ante, right? So to me, it's got to be a big event,
Mhm.
um, and beyond the speaker, there's probably music, um, a little bit, you know, fancier, I don't
A little
know,
fancier,
a little
a little
fancier.
elevated, but I also
Yes.
think and we're very we are 2 very structured, routine individuals. So
Yes.
if it's going to be an event that's keeping us up past our bedtime,
Yeah.
considering but, like, let's keep in mind we go to bed at, like, 8:30,
Yeah.
but it needs it needs to make it worth it because then the next day I wake up for work, I need to wow, that event was a great use of my time, and even though it altered my routine, I'm glad I attended.
Right. And something I'm just going to put it out there. I don't know if it's something that a nonprofit needs to worry about, but when you're asked to attend a lot of events, um, women, and I'm sure it's a male thing too, you're always concerned about what do you wear?
Yes, that's what I was wanting to bring that up.
Yeah, and, when you're seeing that there are a lot of events scheduled and it's formal wear, it gets expensive,
Mhm.
when you start thinking about, wardrobe and okay, let's just say it, hair and nails and shoes
And
and
makeup.
makeup and all the things, like, there's some stress and anxiety tied to
Yes.
that. So, think about that too, when you know that there's other events going on that probably require, a more elevated, attire than business casual.
And I think with that, in your information for the event, have any single question you can think of, have it written down.
Yes.
We should not have to reach out and say, "What's the dress code for this event?" or "What type of attire do I need to wear? What time should we show up?" Make sure that all of your handout, your deliverables, will say, have all those questions answered. So when we send it out to our employees
They
that are
know.
attending, they know. Because if they don't, they're going to ask. And then we
We
now
have to
have to
ask.
reach out to you just to relay that message again.
Yes.
But I also think too that goes to event signage. If you have supporters at your event, and we've run into this in the past, and when we donate, we do not donate to have Diamondback's name everywhere. But if that's what's included in the sponsorship, then we're looking for it.
Mhm.
And if Diamondback is not listed or whatever company is being represented, you need to make sure that whoever is creating those graphics, that they are not the only person looking at those graphics, that you have 1, 2, definitely not 1, at least 2, maybe 3 people looking over your sponsorship ship list, what level they're sponsoring, and making sure that correlates on the event signage.
Yes. It's hard when you're, a presenting sponsor or one of the lead sponsors and, your logo's off or, you're not even on
Yeah.
the board. And so I think it's a great strategy to not only have one person review this, you need to have 3 or 4 people
Mhm.
reviewing that and making sure everything is current.
Yes, and current logos, ask the organizations. We are always happy to send a logo again, even if we just sponsored an event last year and it hasn't changed, just to make sure. 'Cause it seems silly when we talk about it, but it happens a lot,
Right.
and you're like, "Wait, 1, my logo's not there, or that was our logo 5 years ago, and why do they still have it?"
Yeah. Well, to me, we're associated with the name, that we're
Mhm.
proud of Diamondback or, anyone that's there representing their company, they're probably proud of who they're representing. So you want to make sure that you get that right.
And we attend a lot of events.
Hmm.
Do you have some that stick out to you that you're like, "Wow, that is an event I great organization, great cause, great event altogether, and I can't wait to attend next year?"
Yeah. So I think I was extremely impressed with the crystal ball. I mean, that's one where you are dressed up. Food was great, music was great. It was just a wonderful event. I will say my favorite was the stair climb.
Oh, and that's gonna be our next episode.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, one, the cause, the
Mhm.
purpose of the stair climb, and when we really reflect on all the first responders that lost their lives because of what happened 9/11. Um, but the way it's ran to where it really is telling a story of the purpose behind, um, the nonprofit. It's powerful. There's the bagpipes,
Mhm.
there's
The moment of
the
silence,
moment of
yeah.
silence, the tags on the, at the end, you've got a tag around your neck, and at the end, you're hanging
It
the
gives me
tag.
chills just thinking about it.
That's probably the most impactful, event that I've attended. You're seeing first responders in their gear. I mean, that stuff is not light,
Mhm.
and, I mean, they're going up those bleachers right there with you, and, I don't have that equipment on, and I mean, you're sweating.
Yes.
And so, very powerful moment. I think with any event, it's just so important that you're able to tell your story, um, and to share that vision. And when you can provide human connection,
Mhm.
you know, that there is power in that. And
Yes.
that's where you get people to believe in your cause.
And then when you leave that event, just like now, you're sharing your story of attending that event and why it was powerful and why it was meaningful. And now someone else hears that and they're like, "I've never been to that, but I think I want to go next year and see it for myself."
I love that. There's this saying that I'm thinking about. People don't always remember what you say, but they remember how you made them feel.
Mhm.
And so I think as you're planning out events, that's something to keep in mind.
And let's hit the high points of what we discussed. Oh, well, first, is there anything else that you think nonprofits need to know when it comes to corporate giving?
You know, um, I think we did hit the high points. And on the do's, I could say a lot of don'ts, but I'm not going to be
Yeah.
negative. So,
We're not calling anyone
yeah,
out.
I'm not going to call anyone out, not on this podcast. Uh, No, I think, we really said it all. If there are any questions, it's so important that you learn and work to educate yourself again, before you go to a funder.
Mhm.
Nonprofit Management Center is wonderful. I I've taken courses there. I've participated in Funders Academy, Q&A. I was so proud of the people that actually took time to attend that. It was a 3-day course um, to invest in that. And then at the end of the day, if you still have questions, Erin and I are not, unapproachable. Please
Yeah, we are
ask.
happy to help.
Yes, I would rather be able to educate you, than you, come off as, in a way that just isn't representative of you or your cause or how you want to present yourself. Um, and shut that, not that we would
Put
shut
a
the
bad
door,
taste in your mouth.
but it is putting a bad taste, in our mouth, and you don't wanna do that to a foundation, um, or, a company where you're going to ask for their money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
well, thank you so much for sharing your time. And if
absolutely.
people, number one, if you remember anything from this episode, is work on building that
The
relationship.
relationships, it is fundraising.
Friend raising and
Yes,
priority number one. But
absolutely.
thanks so much for chatting with me today.
You're so welcome.
And
Thank you.
you'll be on an episode in the future. I already know it.
I love it. Always.
But everyone, on behalf of Ashley and myself, that does it for this episode of Fueling Tomorrow. We'll see you next time.